Minute you with the show this morning, and it's the time of the day or the time of the week where we bring you Crime Talk, the weekly edition with eThekwini Secure. As always, we've got the chairperson of eThekwini Secure with us this morning, Imtiaz Syed. Imtiaz, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, Imtiaz, I was wondering what we're talking about today, but one issue we've been, in fact, I focused on something early on with regard to service delivery and looking at South Africa and the country with regard to service delivery in the interest of public interest. And there was an earlier discussion we had with AfriForum where the government wanted to give 50
Yes.
million rand as a donation to Cuba. But looking at our own set of problems,
Yeah.
and we've got our own issues in this country, and just to understand,
Mhm.
to look at, because I know you people are involved at municipal level, at council level, many,
Yes.
many councillors, and just to understand the dynamics that play out when it comes to service delivery to the public, Imtiaz.
I think just before I go into it, really, just to get some background into our involvement in council. Remember, we come from a space of activism, right? And activism doesn't dictate that you pick on one part. And someone asked me a question, but you guys are taking care of safety and security. You guys are on CPFs, and you guys are doing outreach work, and now you're into politics. What are you doing? And my response to it was never ever judge us by the limitations of oneself. So we felt that we needed to look at a holistic view of what is it that people need across all platforms. Now, in our platforms, whatever it might be, if there's a need for outreach, we go and we step and we put on that cap. If there's CPF needs, then we put on that cap. And when there's need for political will to bring change, then we put on that cap. So there's not one that over supersedes the other, and there's not another that supersedes over the political climate, if you know what I mean. So just to be clear, I'm actually also a sitting councillor, PR councillor. We've got two seats in council, and I sit part of the Human Settlements and Infrastructure Committee. And what we've learned, I mean, just through sitting in council, that we've learned quite a lot in the last, I think, 6 or 8, 7 months, right? And counsel is not as simple as people think, where you pick up the phone and someone gets to come and fix your problem. There's a whole lot of processes that go on behind it to ensure that those things happen. And that's basically organizational planning and strategic planning that comes in from the council in itself. And that's where we have a major issue. A major issue in that there are no longer technocrats in the political climate. And when we don't have technocrats in the political climate, we find ourselves in a space of always wanting and never ever being able to deliver, because there would have been 3 steps before what we need to get done that hadn't been done. And we end up sitting with a stalemate most of the time. So that is something that we're looking at very seriously in terms of saying, you know what, in the city, let us identify, for example, all the engineers. And then ultimately, as a politician or as an activist or whatever it is you want to call us, we're not sure what we're being called these days, but we are saying that if in the city we have 28,000 employees, right? Let us identify all our engineers. Who are civil engineers? Who are mechanical engineers? And remember, these people work in different departments. We've got doctors, we've got professors, all of them employed by the city. Let us find these individuals, let us put them together in a room, and let us, as politicians, remember, we don't understand everything. Sometimes we might seem smart and we think we know everything, but we actually really don't know the technicalities of what it takes in order to get something done. So we might say we just want something done and it needs to happen now. But the understanding of how it gets done from the point of us saying it to when it gets done is the issue. And that's something that we've identified in the Human Settlements and Infrastructure Committee. So what we're saying is, let us get all the engineers together. Let's find a good grouping of them that can actually solve problems. And let us just in one page throw problems at them and give them timeframes to come back to us with solutions so that we can start fixing up the city. Now, people would say things, and the trajectory of change cannot be visualized if it's happening at a very slow pace, right? So we're saying that let us clearly prioritize what are the major issues, what are the issues that we cannot deal with, and we must be honest with ourselves about it. And then let's tackle the issues that we can currently deal with immediate effect, prioritize those things, and then push them through the system so that they get done quickly. Like, for example, this morning at 9:30, we're out in Claremont looking at people's service delivery issues. And this is something that was very important because as much as we sit in committee, when papers and documents are put in front of us, we don't really physically see the problems or the challenges people are facing. you know. So it was important for councillors to go out onto the street, have a look at the actual problem, so that when we're talking about it in council, they can relate, they can understand. And these are the things that we are doing currently in council.
Well, certainly, and I think talking with people like engineers with the expertise is absolutely important
Mhm.
because sometimes, as councillors, you are caught between a rock and a hard place, or should I say, with the pothole situation in the country, you're caught between a pothole and a sinkhole at this point in time
Absolutely,
because
absolutely.
it's a huge mess, and it's important to liaise with people with the expertise because, but ultimately, like I said, for councillors, you are caught between the rock and hard place because you are responsible, you are
Mm.
answerable to the general public.
No, absolutely. And when it comes down to becoming answerable, I mean, the everyday issues, what we can't really understand is that the everyday issues are supposed to be autonomous and be taken care of themselves, right? So if there's a water leak in your home, on your street, or whatever, and it's been reported, there's a reference number, there shouldn't be a need by the officials to have a counselor or anyone that's sitting in council to now still bring that same message across. The message has been passed. There's a problem on the road, there's a pothole on the road, it's been reported. The questions we are raising as politicians in council, and remember, in council you have two parts: the officials who are supposed to do the work, and the politicians who represent the work that needs to be done based on what we get, right? Now, if we've told the community that this is the number you need to call, and if that number is not being answered, that's a challenge on the part of the officials, and we need to point it at them, if you understand what I mean. The time frame set out by council is 24 hours by someone responding to your problem, depending on the urgency of it. We are saying those things need to be adjusted. If there's a water pipe that's leaking, you cannot leave it for 24 hours running. Those timeframes need to be reduced. But I can understand if someone's electricity is out, it's not an urgency to the extent that we are wasting anything as a city, if you know what I mean. So we're starting to rethink how we operate as a city, and we're starting to start to or try to push that agenda into officials also understanding where we're coming from. To say that if we don't work together and if we can't come to consensus in council and as officials and as councillors, then how is it are we expected to now start doing service delivery for the people? And that's something that's very important to us right now.
Well, Imtiaz, Jazakallah, as always, for your time with us here on Salam Media on the Crime Talk Weekly Edition. We wish you well, my brother. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Chairperson of eThekwini Secure, Imtiaz Syed, with us this morning. We're going to go for a break. We come back. We'll be talking about Ethiopia and not Ukraine, which is now the scene of the world's worst war, according to Dr. Eke Minyabasi Eyita Okon.